Q&A time. Matt, great job
Thanks, man.
talking about just that crazy cycle that we have a tendency to just lock ourselves into.
Yeah.
First question that I had specifically was, what about, there may be people, and I know in my own life there have been times when in that cycle, I get to that debt part, and it's like, how do I break out of the cycle? Because I want to be generous, I want to live that life of peace,
Yeah.
but I just, with Christmas coming, this stress that's just building up, what if there are people here who are just stuck in debt and don't know how to escape that?
Well, there's tools. I would say there's a lot of tools to help you that are available. We're kind of a Dave Ramsey, believers in terms
Financial
of
Peace.
the Financial
Yep.
Peace University. I would definitely look that up. Debt free is definitely. I mean, I'm not there. It's a difficult road to hoe. But I can also look back over the last 5-10 years and see massive differences in terms of not only debt that I'm relieved from, but also the margin that created and the margin that I kept. Right now, I'll be honest. Between my wife and I, my wife is a very I don't want to go in debt for a single possible thing.
Me.
Right, and I am very much like I'll go in debt like tomorrow. I'm just very used to that. Debt is functional to me in certain opportunities, but I'm like, I don't want to be unwise. Right, so I don't want to be the case where I'm in debt and it's unwise to be in debt. Yep. So we argue a lot of the house and debate about those things, but it has grown in us because it's not my desire to be in debt. And so I think people, when they have a strong desire and it's more habits that cause it. Surround yourself with some tools and some programs that would help you. I can tell you honestly, the best thing, and I know Dave teaches this, when you pay off one little thing, the feeling you get from that just grows.
It's a high.
It's a different thing that you can feed and grow. Yep. And he always talks about it, like, don't worry about that $30,000 school loan. Worry about that $1,800 credit card. Right? Pay it off. Yep. Take that margin, put it back in. Keep doing it. A lot of times he'll talk about his famous words are live like nobody else so you can live like nobody else. Right. And so maybe that's not going out to eat as often as you do and putting that money towards something else so that you can, when the time comes, get that Ruth Chris birthday dinner, right? Because without going into debt, because you've been able to make some decisions like that. So I would say that's probably the best idea is just keep getting yourself in programs and opportunities of accountability that help you just push past it.
Right.
I'm saying tendencies might still be there. I'm still the tendency that I go into debt tomorrow. Yeah, we can do all of that, but I don't want to be unwise about it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I know for Bree and I, the best thing for us, because I know Financial Peace, they've got the envelope system. So I'd encourage you guys, if you're stuck in that debt. That debt cycle.
We did the envelope system
plugged
for our
into
marriage, our wedding.
Oh, really?
It was
That's awesome.
Crazy to try to do that. My wife had envelopes everywhere.
That's awesome. But the other thing I think when I built a budget for our income, being able to track where you spend your money, how you spend your money.
Oh yeah.
It is so eye-opening.
So brilliant.
Like, what am I wasting all my money on? Right. So you get to a point when we can budget for those debts and budget for those payments. Yep. It almost puts you in a on a path that's going to lead to freedom. Yep. So and you can build in generosity into that.
And hey, find some common people, normal people around you that have done the program and are debt free, and they will tell you how it happened and what they did. Like, we have several friends that have worked the program and done it, and house is paid for, everything. Why not? So that's where I look at it and go, you should definitely do that. That will inspire you, especially when they're normal and not like crazy rich.
Right, exactly. We don't have it, so other question, it has to do with the promise that Jesus gave in Matthew. And we got two questions about it. And one is on a more kind of personal, practical, human level. And then the other, they question the idea of the birds. But when Jesus says you're going to feed the birds, what happens when there's a famine? And there's literally no seed or anything for them to eat. And on the same token,
Wait, what happens when there's a famine and the birds don't have food?
They have no seeds. They can't find seeds.
Okay.
The other one is, in the context of the Matthew verses, how would you interpret them in light of people who die of starvation, exposure, those type things?
Okay, well, those are two different verses.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have good answers for either one of them, but I can tell you it's a long process of study, especially when you start talking about suffering. and the effects of sin in the world. When you start talking about stuff like the birds, the last verse is not just the last verse is not there just for happenstance. Mm-hmm. When he says trouble for tomorrow is going to be plenty for tomorrow, I believe that is a very all-encompassing verse that says, look, there's famine times in your life. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
So when he says, well, the birds, well, yeah, there are times when that happens. That's very true. And I would consider that major problems, major trouble. Consider that to be, again, something where even when Romans 8 says, God, nothing can separate us from you, even when we're hungry. When we're persecuted, even when we die by the sword, like nothing separates us from you. And so you have to kind of get past that physical aspect of all that you need. I mean, do I need food to sustain my life? Yes, but I need Jesus more still for my eternal life. So it's the reality is he gives us what we need, but there also may still be trouble coming. Now, when it comes to the aspect of poor and things like that, there's multiple ways to look at it. People have argued with me that, and I know this is a hard one, but the poor that are not fed is really more of a failure of your actions than anyone else's.
Yep.
They're a failure of the church doing what they're called to do, more than it is a failure of just the fact that God didn't show up for them.
Right.
The fact of the matter is God was available for them, but the people of God didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
So, I mean, for example, great Old Testament law, which was called gleaning. Remember gleaning?
Yes.
Okay, the great Old Testament law, which is gleaning, which basically said,
it's the wheat stuff, right?
He's like, don't plow to the edge of your field.
Yep.
He's like, there was a law for the Israelites that said, don't harvest every single thing possible. Don't go back over it, and don't plow to the edge. We want to leave what's remainder, and we want to leave the edges
on the ground
for the foreigners and the aliens that come through your area.
Right.
And you look at that and go, wait. So you telling me that even a law like that was not just for the person, like it was like not just a trust issue, that, hey, God, we're going to, in one pass, we're going to get everything that you want us to have, but the fact that he was giving them a law, a requirement that says, just because it's there, just because it's your field, and you go pick it to death, you don't understand what you're doing is you're causing starvation for the foreigners that come through your land.
Yep.
And I'm like,
wow.
So, when you start looking at that and you start thinking globally, like you start thinking of the fact of how much we waste and how much we do. I mean, I've pulled it on my kids when they have food on the table, and I'm like, there's starving kids in Africa, that's true. But the reality is that in our excess, we fail to understand the connection of our excess to the poverty and to the need of others.
Yep.
And I believe that some of that is true. I can't right on fully say that is the true biblical answer that well, people starving is your fault.
From a moral perspective.
Yeah, it's our fault.
Right.
Because that may be, again, there are times of famine and there are times of plenty. And there may be times of famine in countries, in persecution, and times like that God is doing a work that he would not be doing otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it and go, oh, yeah, but does he really want people to die? No, the death is part of the fall. Right. It doesn't mean that the work's not still happening.
Yep.
So that's a big one. That's a
loaded question.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's worth, I would say this, if you really are moved by that, it's worth the investigation and study to figure out where you land on that and to figure out where you feel like God lands on it in the whole of Scripture.
Right.
Again, I think there's several places we could point and go, well, this and this and this. But I definitely challenge you to keep asking the question. Because it's something that's important to you, keep going.
Well, it makes me think, in Genesis at the fall, like you said, it's explicit that it says, cursed is the ground.
Yeah.
So that there are a lot of aspects about that we'll just not, the sin that infiltrated the world and the universe, we just can't wrap our minds around that broken. And I think Romans even speaks to that bondage to decay.
The earth is groaning in its death, basically.
Right.
And so you're like, oh my gosh, and it looks forward to being restored. It looks forward to being redeemed. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
It's just loaded.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking.
Yes, big, awesome question. So come back next week. Going to be a great wrap up to the series going into Christmas. Going to be awesome, man.
It's going to be great.
Right on.
Thanks, guys.